This podcast is sponsored by nobody. I am paying for all of this myself. There is no sponsor, sorry. The following interview you're about to hear was recorded over Zoom. Enjoy!
Hey, how's it going?
Good, going real good. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for being a part of my podcast. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
What's new? What's going on? I feel like we haven't talked in forever.
Oh man, where do I start? The podcast is doing well. Comedy is doing what it's doing. We're going to new places. Be Positive Productions is going crazy. So it's a lot going on, but I'm happy. It's a lot of good stuff.
And I know some of it you probably can't quite talk about yet. It's probably still a noise.
Yeah. The Be Positive stuff, some of that I can't talk about.
It's so cool because I remember when you first started that program, that brand. And I remember thinking oh, this is really cool. I wonder what's going to come of this. And now it really seems to have blown up pretty big.
Yeah, it's taken off. This year was a big year for us. It was a super good year for us to kind of grow. And it started last year, to be honest with you.
Well, it's an honor to have you. As always.
Thank you. Again, thank you.
For anybody listening to this, just give an introduction. Who are you? What do you do? What are you about?
I'm Dario, born and raised on the south side of Chicago here. I am a stand-up comedian here in the city, currently on the north side. I've been doing stand-up for 4.5 years, comedy in general for 5.5 years. I run a company called Be Positive Productions. And it's really cool. We do comedy shows all over the city. We have charity events that we put on, a lot of community work that we do. I'm a producer at Zany's and Laugh Factory.
That's amazing, dude. That's amazing. Yeah. It's so crazy. I remember when I was student teaching that stand-up class that you were taking at Second City. And now just to see how different things are for you and how much you've exploded, that's awesome.
It's been crazy.
Now that we know who you are and what you're about, what's your story? I got to hear it. What's your story?
I got a few stories.
Yes, whatever you got, I'll take it.
So the first one is the time I met Taylor Swift before she was Taylor Swift. Yeah. So I was working at Best Buy, and Best Buy out in Joliet, and has a big community of people that support the local racetrack and pop and country music and stuff like that. And the word had came out that this girl was going to be at the Joliet Speedway, and they needed people to help out and kind of facilitate the Best Buy car and kind of be present down there because we're the Best Buy from Joliet, and just kind of be there. And we got to meet and greet this girl, right? And I think the album was called At 16 or At 15. I can't even remember. Her first album, right? Mm-hmm. And so I wake up in the morning. It was a Saturday morning before the store opened. And I'm like, why do I have to go down? And they making this big thing about this girl. Yeah. I don't care. This singer. So we go down there to the racetrack, and she's there, and we're setting up tents, and I'm doing my normal Best Buy thing, right?
Right.
They say, let's go meet her. And I'm like, this is a waste of time, man. Come on. What are we doing meeting this girl?
Hannah Montana over here.
Yeah,
pop star.
Yeah, I'm like, what am I doing meeting her? So when we got there, I'm just like, hi, how you doing? Small, little, skinny girl. I'm shaking her hand. Hey, what's going on? Oh, you do music? Oh, okay, cool. Dang, that's crazy. Yeah. I hope your career goes well, I hope it goes well for you. And she was like, thank you. I was like, yeah, best of luck to you. And in my head, I was like, that little girl ain't gonna be nothing. And next thing you know, she blew up. Obviously Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And so I know she'll never remember me at all, but I remember that because I'm like, damn, I met her before. I didn't even want to take a picture and nothing like that because I'm like,
well, yeah, and it kind of seems weird, like if I'm turning 30 in 2 weeks, and if some like teen 11-year-old, pop star boy, I wouldn't be clamoring to get it. It's weird. Like I'm a grown up. Like why would I?
Yeah. I was just like, why? This is a waste of time, man. Let's get to the racetrack stuff. And yeah, turns out that was Taylor Swift.
That's hilarious. I'm just glad you didn't piss her off because then, well, I kind of wish you had because there'd be a song about you. There'd be a whole album.
Yeah.
So maybe you should have actually.
It's not in my nature, But that would be funny. I also met what's the race girl, the race car, Danica Patrick. I met her and she was actually not nice. She wasn't nice. Yeah. Here's another that really happened story. So she came to the store, Best Buy, same Best Buy, and the whole day was, we got Danica Patrick coming and yada yada yada. And I was actually kind of excited because I'm like, that's kind of cool to see the first a dominant woman, athlete coming to the store. I'm with it. I love sports. Let's get it. And so she came late, like super late, first of all. And
that's already just a bad impression.
And it was like, okay, that's kind of whack. That's kind of whack. When she got there, she didn't want to like get close to anybody. And it was, you had to like stand far back and like she would just sit down at the table and take a picture with you from like a distance. And I was kind of like, that's kind of whack. You know what I mean? Like we want to shake your hand. We want to take the picture, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I got it because I'm like, okay, I'm an adult. She's an adult. Maybe it's security reasons, whatever.
Yeah. But
there was this little girl who wanted to see her, right? And who like really loved her. Like this little girl, I don't know the age, but she had to be like 6 or 7, right? She was like super young, small little girl that you could just tell was like looking up to this idol of hers. And she was in front, the girl was before me. And when it was her turn, she ran up to Danica Patrick. And Danica Patrick was like, whoa, and stopped the little girl. And the security people were like, no, she got to come back here. And I was like, what? Like, what is that little girl going to do to you? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it wasn't even like she was like health reasons, it wasn't
COVID at the time.
No, we're talking, what was this? 2008, 9, Yeah. So, it wasn't that. It was just like, really? Like, that's kind of whack. So when it got to be my time, I told everybody, I was like loud, vocal. I was like, I'm not bending down for her. She gonna lean into the picture when it come to me. I'm not doing that. Because at this point, I'm not a fan anymore.
Right.
And so when it was my turn, I walked up to the table and I got a picture of this. I walked up to the table and I got my autograph and I was like, the picture time. And she's like, yeah, let's take a picture. I was like, now, I'm not bending down. You're going to have to lean into this picture because I'm not doing that. I saw what you did to that little girl. And so she was like, ha, ha, ha. I was like, I'm not playing. So all I did, I leaned in. Oh, I'm not playing. I leaned into the picture and she goes like this and like leans into the camera and I made her do it. And then after that I was like, thank you. And I walked away. So I got a picture if you want it. I got to find it, but I got it.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you send that to me, I'll absolutely include it in the show notes. That's hilarious.
Oh, hell yeah. It was stupid.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Man. And I like that in one story, you're like, I'm not taking a picture with this girl. And in the other story, you're like, I'm getting my picture, but I'm not getting it the way she wants.
Yeah. Yeah. It was two different things, though, because it was like, one was like, I didn't know. I thought the girl was like country music, like whatever Taylor Swift sings. I'm like, that's not my style.
Right.
I don't care. But like, I'm like, this is sports. Even though I'm not a NASCAR fan at all. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not. I watch sports.
Famous person is a famous person. Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, cool. Let me. I kind of relate to this. But nah, she ruined it. When I saw that little girl get denied, I was like, that's enough for me.
Yeah. Have you ever found yourself wanting to be famous just so you can undo all the asshole behavior other famous people have done?
Yeah, actually, and I don't know the format, how we gonna keep on going, but I got a longer.
Keep going. Yeah,
I got another one, and this kind of ties into that question you just asked.
Yeah,
because for those that don't know, I also have a podcast, 77 Flavors of Chicago, that really kind of just blew up in the city this year. So and it's absolutely insane. But that story, I'll get to that story, but this podcast actually really makes me feel good because I've gotten off stage where people didn't recognize me necessarily as a comedian. They came to a show and I was the host. But they recognized me from the podcast. Yeah. And they ran up to me and just wanted to take a picture because of that. So for me, yes, I feel like I'm not famous by any means, but it feels good to be able to be in that position and say, all right, now, I'm cool with taking pictures. Yeah, let's have some fun, Yeah. So yes, I kind of right the wrong of those other instances where it happened to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I've always wanted to be famous so I could show up to like podunk, middle of nowhere, out in the boonies, homecoming dances or something, and just like make their night, class of 25 people and just hang out with them, and they all say they met some celebrity. Yeah, I've always wanted to do that.
You know what's crazy is when I did do that, when it happened to me, the first time that it happened, I was on stage and I had gotten off, and I was like a last minute call up to Laugh Factory and to host the show. And when I got off stage, it was a killer set. It was very good. And so these people kind of like literally ran up to me and it was like, oh my God, this couple, oh my God, that was so good. And I was like, oh, thank you. But it was like kind of like a rush. And the dude said, he was like super geeked. He said, oh my God, I didn't know you were going to be here. We listen to your podcast all the time. And when I saw you go on stage, me and my girlfriend were like, holy cow, this is a dude from the podcast. Yeah. And we just want to take a picture with you. And that was so cool. Man, I'm so glad we met you. And I was like, holy shit, like this is out of control. So yeah.
Is this how Beyonce feels every day?
I know. Every day. Yeah.
And one thing I'll say is I really like when good things happen to good people. And you remain one of my favorite people in the Chicago comedy community. I always send my students to your mics. I always have you come and talk to my class. Like I have you come on these podcasts because I truly believe that good things should happen to good people. And you've done nothing but use your platform for positivity, for joy, for light, for like even people that I got beef with still like you. You know what I mean? Like even people that like we have nothing else in common and I got beef with, like they wouldn't even talk trash about you. I've never heard a bad word about you. So
thank you.
Yeah, so I'm glad. I'm so glad that you're finding success like that and that you're because it's deserved. It's well deserved. You work really hard.
I really do appreciate that. It's been fun and like really humbling. Like just stay humble because like for me, I've never wanted that kind of like attention necessarily. Right. I always want to do something good. That's all I try to do is whatever product I put out there. Exactly. I want it to be the best quality product that I could give. And this year's been a good one for me. But I do have a story about how this is the like main one that I want to tell. Like that really happened because this is a story about how the podcast got started. Okay. So I actually bought a lot of equipment to make my old podcast that I had become better and sound better. And I'm using that equipment right now, actually, for this. But
nice. I feel honored.
yeah. So I bought it and it was like $2,700 at the end of the day that I just dropped. Yeah. And I made a promise to myself that podcast was going to be good. And I'm talking June, right? I just gotten back from a vacation with Sarah, my girlfriend, and we just came back from Cabo, like first week of June. And right after that, I went and I spent the money on this and I said, I'm going to make this podcast good. So when I got it, I had to order everything. I bought it and it came in when I was at work. And so I went to lunch and I picked it all up from Best Buy and I went home and I set it up just to play with it like a brand new toy. And I'm opening it up and I put the headphones on. I was like, wow, this sounds really good. And I said, hey, Sarah, listen to this. Let's just try this out. And she put the headphones on and she goes, wow, my voice sounds really good. And she was like amazed by it. And she goes, I think we should do a podcast. And I said, yeah, let's do it. Whatever. Hell because in my head, I was like, let's justify this $2,700 I just spent, let's justify this. So from that moment to about 15 minutes later, no joke, Sydney, we had the title down, we had the concept of the show down, and I was already in the mode of designing like the logo and how it should look and things like that. So it was done that quick. Yeah. And we were like, okay, cool. That's going to be fun. When should we record? Let's record tomorrow. So the first two episodes were done the next 2 days.
Wow.
And we were like, yeah. So we were like, wow, this is kind of dope, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So about a week and a half had passed. About almost 2 weeks had passed. And we're sitting on those 2 episodes. We recorded a third. And while we recorded the third, we said, well, we were like wondering, how do we get this podcast to grow? We had about 100 followers in 2.5 weeks. And we were just like, we got to do something. Our friend Kels, who was on the episode 3, our third episode, she was the guest. She came over to our house so we could record. And she also does tarot cards. And yeah, I'm not a big tarot. I'm not a tarot card believer at all, right? So, but she was talking to Sarah. That was their thing, and so I'm sitting there listening, kind of skeptically. I'm just listening to them do their thing, or her talk about it. And so she said, "All right, you ready to do it, Sarah? To do your tarot?" And I'm just looking, and so I said, I chuckled, right? And so she said, "Do you want to do one?" I said, yeah, I mean, whatever, do it. So she did me first, kind of get me out of the way, right?
Yeah.
And so she's reading stuff. She's reading it, right? One of the things she said was, oh, wow. You all are you're going to experience something pretty quick. It's going to happen, and you're not going to know it until it happens. Like, it's going to be, you're going to blow up. I was like, in my head, I'm like, all right, okay. Okay, that's cool. So then she does Sarah's, right? When she did Sarah's, the same thing popped up, and she goes, oh, wow, you got the same card. So you're going to blow up too at the same time. Now, keep in mind, we're not thinking about the podcast. We're not thinking about anything. I'm still kind of skeptical. Like, all right, you're just saying this. Maybe you just our friend talking, I don't know.
Yeah.
But she said the same thing about Sarah. And so I'm like, that's kind of crazy. And she was like, wow, that's weird. That doesn't happen often. And I was like, okay, all right, well, if you seem surprised. And we kind of left it at that. Sarah also asked, how do you help the podcast grow? And so she said, this is the trick to help the podcast grow. And it was kind of like you spam like a bunch of people and then you follow them. And funny thing is, the next day we went from 99 followers to 215 followers.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, that worked, right? That worked.
Yeah.
One of the followers was the Chicago Food Tribune editor, right? And so we were getting a bunch of like high profile follows, but he was one that was kind of like our biggest. And so Sarah asked me, she said, hey, should I message this guy and just say, hey, listen to the podcast? And I was like, no, don't bother him. And then in the same breath, I kind of looked, I was like, I mean, what does it hurt? Just
worst case, he says no.
Yeah, worst case, he says no. So we messaged him and he goes, oh, wow, I was just about to reach out to you all because I listened to your podcast and I actually like it. Can you set up an interview tomorrow? And we were like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
So we were like, yeah, hell yeah. The next day comes. We said we had a 12 o'clock afternoon phone interview. So we're going through, we're telling the same story I just told you. And he goes, okay, cool. And his last thing was like, hey, can I get a picture that you all can sign off for that I can use? And we were like, sure. We sent him a picture, right? And we hung up the phone and we were like, what is he going to do? Is it going to be like an Instagram post? Is it just I don't know. What is it? This can't be in a newspaper, right? And so we don't know. We have no clue, right? The next day, which is now Wednesday, I run my show at Zany's. Yeah. And it's very weird. It's the only time that it's been like a dead Wednesday where I was struggling to sell tickets. That show, since the pandemic, is easily 60, 70 plus range ticket wise.
Wow.
And I think, we only had 30 tickets sold. And I was like, what happened? So I, before the show, went out and started barking on the streets. And I don't like that at all.
Yeah.
So I'm walking down and I get pretty far down in Old Town. And I'm like, I'm turning around because this is stupid. So I randomly take out my phone and I look at my emails. And the first email I see is one that says, it's from WGN Radio. And they say, hey, we just saw your article in the Tribune. We want to bring you in for an interview. And we were like, I was like, what? I'm like reading this over, like the article is out. So I rush back to Zany's. Sarah's there. And as I walk into Zany's, Sarah's like, holy shit, what's going on? The phone is blowing up. Our page is just going crazy. And I was like, WGN just hit me up and said that they saw our article. And she said, the article's out. So we Googled it. And sure enough, the article had just came out. And from that moment, our life has never been the same. It's been like hectic. The very next day, we were in WGN Radio interviewing. And before we get on the air, Steve Bertrand covers the mic up and he goes, so how's your life been in the last 24 hours? And we were like, we don't know what's happening. Like, this is just crazy. Long story short, that story that the tarot reading about us blowing up at the same time was the podcast that blew up literally a week later.
That's awesome. Because it's like they found out about you. They started listening to the podcast. They heard that story and they're like, oh, it came true. That's cool. Yeah. What is the biggest way that it's impacted you? Like, what would you say? Like attendees to your show or interview? Like, what would you say?
I think it's the networking actually that I've gotten from it. A lot of the stuff with Be Positive Productions that we have down the pipeline has come from the podcast. We got a ton of really dope guests that we have in the pipeline. So that's probably been the biggest thing. I just had a show. I don't want to timestamp the podcast, but I just had a show at the time of this recording, like 4 days ago. And we had a group of the podcast guests came to that show. And so it's been a plus in almost every kind of scenario that you can have coming out of this thing. Just people and conversations I never thought I would have had are happening now. And it's just we, Topo Chico is a partner of ours now. And that happened because of the podcast. So a bunch of little things have just been so great to us because of it. And, I don't know whether it's the $2,800, $2,700 I spent or just hard work meeting the pavement now. So it's
what is the biggest way unrelated to comedy and entertainment that your life has changed since? Well, maybe something you just didn't expect.
The business endeavors that are coming now. Yeah. So there's some really cool business things that are happening. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I can't say a whole bunch, but there's some really cool things with Be Positive Productions that's going to happen in the next year and a half. And I'm just happy, that the podcast is kind of like the conduit to it all. And a lot of the fun stuff that we had. Now something else is, because directly of the podcast, I have a show that's going to start. I can't say this. I have a show that's going to start in January at Navy Pier.
I heard about that.
Yeah, the world's largest rooftop bar. And they're going to have a comedy show, and I'm the host. And that literally is a direct benefit of the podcast. They were a guest on the podcast, and in conversation, they mentioned they wanted to do comedy. And I said, hey, well, look, you got a guy right here. And next thing you know, that ball start rolling very fast. So that's a cool thing, but a lot of cool stuff happening.
Where did you have additional stories you wanted to share, or was that?
Well, I do have one little small one. So all this happened in like coincidence. So like I'm a partner with Lids also, and that's
you're in everything. You are literally in everything.
It's absolutely out of control. Like everything happened all at once. And this is not a byproduct of the podcast. It literally just happened at the same time.
Yeah.
So I've had hats from Lids. I'm probably, I want to say the last 15 years. I just love hats. I think I've right now, currently, I have almost 200 hats. I love hats. So
wow.
Collector's hats, designs, and things like that. I just love hats. So I've been a fan of lids for a long time. And recently this year, I got a couple hats made when I designed, the logo, right? And they had posted me on their page earlier this year. And we kind of had like a nice little relationship going. And you know how if there's a celebrity crush, that was probably it for me. Because I'm like, holy, how your lids posted me on their page. That's kind of cool. But this right around the time the podcast started blowing up, probably like right after we blew up, probably like 2 weeks after that, they announced they have an ambassador program. And so I just said, hey, I mean, you already posted me once. What do I have to lose? So I emailed and I DM'd. I said, hey, how do I get a part of this? I was like, you already posted me one time. I get hats made all the time. I'm a big fan of yours. They responded within 5 minutes and said, hey, yes, we want you to be a partner. And I was like, holy shit, that was my first personal ambassadorship, influencer type situation.
Yeah.
And it just happened in like, that was in July. And what are we now? November. I'm like tier 2 level ambassador form. So it's pretty cool.
Now, does that mean that we can buy your merch on their website, or what does that mean?
Not yet. So, but I have a code that anybody can use and get discounts off if you go design your own hat. What's really cool though is I get a lot of free merch now.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's all that matters, really, is just the free merch.
Right. I'm here for the free merch.
That's cool. Well, Dario, where can we find you online? Where can we find your podcast? If people were looking for your products and your podcast and things like that, where would they go?
Absolutely. You can go to DarioDurham.com. You can follow me there at my website, BePositiveProd.com is kind of like the overhead for everything Be Positive. And then BePositiveProd.com /77 flavors is where you can find the podcast. You can also find me, Dario D Comedy, online everywhere. 77 Flavors Shy, streaming on Instagram, everywhere, streaming everywhere, on YouTube. And that's everything, I think. I get everything.
Yeah, and I'll post links to all that in the show notes on YouTube, on all the podcast platforms so they can find you. But I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you. I hope that you continue to just blow up. There are few people that I truly just like, I don't want to say a few people that I hope blow up, but there are a few, I feel like, people that I feel like are as capable of blowing up as gigantic as you that I know personally. And I truly think you're just going to explode, even further. And I'm so proud of you. And thank you so much for sharing your stories and your time on my podcast. So that hopefully when you blow up and they search your name, this episode will blow up and I might be able to get some residual.
The cool thing is I put all my podcasts that I've ever been on my website. So
dope. Awesome.
They'll find us.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And tell Sarah I say congratulations, even though I don't think I've ever met her. Tell her I said congrats, and I wish you the best, and I hope you continue to just blow up and spread positivity.
Thank you so much for everything you've done for me personally, Sydney. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course. I'll talk to you later.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.